Everybody, Greg here. Just got a few comments about a couple of recent discussion boards. First of all, I just want to take a step back to week 8, right, when we talked about structural injustice and trying to look at how some of the things that happen in our society are just a little bit out of our control, and it's because of the way things are set up. And something to think about is that these types of changes really are generational, right? There are things that are set up, and it may take a long time and a lot of, like constant pressure on something to get things to change. And I think you see that with, large civil rights movements, that things will get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and then all of a sudden it'll seem like there's something really in the news and it's coming out and it's making a change as a result of kind of a tipping point, even though the pressure has always been there. I think some recent ones that we could look at in particular are reactions to things about transgender oppression through the Caitlyn Jenner story, and then also some of the reactions that Colin Kaepernick got as a result of kneeling during the national anthem at football games. That there's still some issues with race in this country that people are dealing with, and there's a lot of people who deny and say that things aren't happening, and some people have even suggested that Barack Obama's presidency is the fault of all the racial tension and everything. And something I'd like to comment on about that is that it's most likely that if you've talked to some people who've experienced racism, you'll get probably a different view, that it's always been there. It's just been kind of simmering under the surface, and some recent events have brought them to the fore. The Black Lives Matter movement, various other instances of police violence and things like that. There's a lot of different things that we could talk about, but something that popped up that I thought was very interesting was the idea that, let's see, it was a quote from somebody in the class that I thought was really pertinent. We need to have more conversations with people who structural injustice affects the most, right? People who are affected by these different kinds of oppressions. If we have conversations with them, if we're not affected by the same things that they are, that's probably the best way to seek understanding. So I just wanted to make that point, that there was some really good stuff that popped up in the week 8 online discussion about structural injustice. But I also see that there's kind of a vein of denying the reality of some of these structures that exist, that we need to look at and start trying to empathize with people who are victims of that kind of structural injustice. Something that I'd like to also mention is that some people say that, hey, you can work yourself out of anything, right? If you just work hard enough, you'll get there. And I thought that Iris Marion Young had a really poignant statement at one point in the article, where she says people's situations depend partly on their own actions, right? For sure, right? If you work hard, you can change some things about your life. That is 100% true. But it also depends partly on luck, right? Are you in the right spot at the right time? Or, conversely, did you end up in the wrong spot at the wrong time through no fault of your own, right? And then partly on the action of other people, and the advantages or disadvantages they may enact upon you. And so I think that's a really important thing to think of as we move forward. And I saw a degree of empathy pop out in the week 9 discussion related to ableism that I don't think I'd seen before as a full class. And I think part of that was because we had nearly everyone in the class is affected by ableism to some extent, whether it's something that they're dealing with personally or whether it's something that they know, like a son or a daughter or a cousin or somebody who's dealt with things like that. And I think that that's a really good lesson to carry forward when we're trying to create empathy for people maybe living on the other side of the world, is that if we had direct experiences with people who are different from us, we would probably have more empathy. And I think that is shown very clearly in the ableism discussion. And so I'm going to stop right now because this fan came on, and then I'll continue with another short video. I'm going to try to keep it to 2 5-minute videos this time around.